New Hampshire Secretary of State Bill Gardner, thanks for taking the time very much. Florida is now the third contest in this nominating contest. What was your reaction when they moved early like that?
Well, I was glad that the first motion setting it for January 3rd did not pass. So I felt good about that motion not passing.
Do you think Florida is trying to butt in line? Are they doing something wrong? It's gotten a lot of criticism from other early states that the legislature's being kind of a bully here with their early-ish primary.
Well, Florida has an early tradition. It had an early tradition beginning in 1972. What's different this time is that the Republicans gave the 2008 National Convention gave the Republican National Committee certain authority over scheduling nominating processes throughout the country. That had always, before 2008, been decided by the convention. And so this time there were rules put into place after the convention, and Florida opted to do its own thing, and Florida and New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina did their own things. And
philosophically, how do you feel about the parties, or this Democratic Party, the Republican Party, saying this is when New Hampshire, this is when these states are allowed to have their caucuses or primaries with or without consequences from the party?
Well, ideally, it would be nice if New Hampshire could have its primary on the second Tuesday of March, but New Hampshire tradition goes back. In a year and a half from now, it'll be 100 years, the anniversary of the first New Hampshire presidential primary legislation. And so New Hampshire has been very protective of the position that New Hampshire has in the nominating process, and has had for now almost a century.
And talk briefly about that. I mean, why is it good for democracy, good for America, that little old New Hampshire has so much say in determining the nominees of these parties?
Well, it's not that the people here are any better pickers of presidents. That's not the case. It's just that there is a unique political culture in New Hampshire that made it possible for there to be a presidential primary back in 1916, and to have one every 4 years since then. And it was never planned, or it wasn't a strategy that New Hampshire wanted to have the first in the nation. It just happened. It was not planned, and it happened before 1920. And New Hampshire had the first in the nation by a week in 1920, and it had it for half a century. And then something happened that made a lot of people in the country believe that the more people that could have a chance to be part of the process, the better. And what happened in New Hampshire allowed for a person who did not have the most fame or the most fortune to be able to win. And New Hampshire allows for the little guy to have a chance. A person can come to this state and spend time here, not have to spend a whole lot of money because of the political structure here, and have a chance to be president. And that's something that we hold dear, because we want to make sure that it's easy for candidates to get access to the ballot. We don't screen who gets on the ballot. We have the most number of candidates because it's very open, but it provides the opportunity for the little guy to have a chance. And if the little guy wins here, the unexpected happens, because New Hampshire has always been unpredictable and unscripted, and things happen. Little guy has a chance, and it's happened in my years in both parties, where someone very unexpectedly ends up either winning or far exceeding expectations, came out of the state as a winner. And that gave the rest of the country the chance to get a glimpse of someone who they may not have known very much about. And one example is Jimmy Carter. There's examples in both parties over the years. That's what the New Hampshire primary offers for the country.
And there are those that are going to say it doesn't make any sense for such a white, homogeneous state to have that influence.
Well, we don't look like the rest of the country. But do you have to look like someone to have empathy or feelings? Was it not right for Bobby Kennedy in California in '68 to talk about the plight of the poor because he was never poor himself? And some people said that. But some of the most significant advancements, social advancements, happen because something takes place in a place where it's unexpected. And we have had those here in New Hampshire.
Jackie
Robinson is an example. Got to play Major League Baseball because in the spring of '47, because New Hampshire allowed the first black players to be part of a major league organization in the summer of '46, and it worked here. And Branch Rickey said later that he was fearful of bringing Jackie Robinson to Brooklyn, because if it didn't work, it might set it back 5 or 10 years. And he had Jackie Robinson playing up in Montreal on a minor league team there. And he brought him, he said, because he watched closely what happened in New Hampshire in the summer of '46. And he told the 2 black players who played there in Nashua, New Hampshire, Don Newcomb and Roy Campanella, that because they were able to play in New Hampshire, he was going to give Jackie Robinson the chance. And in the era before the slaves were freed, New Hampshire played a major role.
I want to ask you one quick last question. There is sort of a narrative being written now that we're looking at the end of retail politics, that the campaigns are becoming nationalized, that candidates like Newt Gingrich and Herman Cain and others, Rick Perry, who haven't really spent a lot of time on the ground, have been doing the best. Are we seeing the end of person-to-person campaigns in states like New Hampshire and Iowa?
Well, that point has been made in the past, some of the primaries in the '90s. The nature of campaigning does change over the years, but the retail aspect in New Hampshire remains. And if a candidate chooses not to participate, that's fine, but the proof will be in the pudding, so to speak, what happens on primary day. Retail politics still lives in New Hampshire and still matters.
Bill Gardner, thanks very much.